There's a strange truth about women that almost nobody ever tells you. You do not look younger because of your face. You look younger because your soul refuses to age. Think about it. How can two women born in the same year walk through life, and one carries light like morning sunlight, while the other drags her spirit like an old tired shadow? Here is the secret. Time touches the body, but it only enters the soul if you let it. So I want to ask you a question that will stay with you long after this video ends. What if the youth you think you've lost was never in your skin, but in your truth, your courage, your spirit, waiting to be remembered? Stay with me, because if you listen to what follows, you will recognize something ancient inside you. You will realize that you are a queen, and it is time to start acting like one. A younger look comes from an untroubled soul. There is a quiet truth that takes years to understand, and yet, when it finally reaches you, it feels as if you've always known it. A woman does not look younger because life has been gentle with her. She looks younger because she refused to let life make her hard. She lived through storms that would have broken others, but she did not let the storm enter her bones. She let the rain fall, yes, but she never allowed it to drown her spirit. You can often see this in the smallest details, in the softness around her eyes, in the gentleness of the way she breathes when she sits alone, in the warmth that rises unforced from her presence. She does not fight life. She does not push against time. She simply moves with it, allowing each moment to shape her but never to define her. And that is the difference. Many women age because they are constantly resisting. They resist what happened. They resist what didn't happen. They resist who left. They resist who stayed. They resist who they became along the way. But the younger looking woman, she carries no resistance inside her. Life has touched her, challenged her, wounded her even, but it has not captured her. She learned to let go before letting go became an emergency. She learned to breathe deeply before anxiety had the chance to settle into her chest. She learned to forgive herself the moment she realized it was her own reflection she was fighting, not the world. And the soul, when left untroubled, has a strange way of shining through the body. It softens the lines, it brightens the eyes, it slows the pace of aging in ways no cream or serum could ever imitate. Because she is not aging from the outside, she is aging from the inside. And she does it from a place of freedom, not fear. She doesn't cling to the stories that hurt her, she lets them pass through like water. She doesn't replay the arguments, the betrayals, the disappointments. She looks at them once, learns what she needs to learn, and then releases them back into the river of her life. And just like water, she keeps flowing. That's why she looks younger. Not because she is untouched by time, but because she moves with time instead of letting time drag her. This kind of woman holds a secret peace that cannot be faked. You see it when she walks. You hear it in her silence. You feel it when she's near. It's the peace of someone who has accepted herself. Not the filtered version, not the version that performs, not the version that apologizes for existing, but the real, raw, unprotected self that she once tried to hide. An untroubled soul is not something you are born with. It is something you cultivate through storms that challenge your worth and moments that tempt you to shrink. But instead of collapsing, she expanded. Instead of breaking, she softened. And instead of becoming bitter, she became light. And that light, that softness is what people call youth. Because youth is not in the skin, youth is in the spirit. And when a woman embraces that truth, she begins to glow from a place that no mirror can capture and no world can diminish. And the most beautiful part? She never demands recognition for this glow, because she knows the real glow cannot be taken, copied, or stolen. It is earned, it is lived, it is embodied, and that is why she walks with such quiet certainty. But there's another reason she looks younger, something subtle, something woven into her very presence. She carries herself like a whisper, not a shout. 2. She carries herself like a whisper, not a shout. There is a rare elegance in a woman who does not need to announce her value. She does not push herself forward. She does not chase attention. She does not force her presence onto the world like a storm beating at the windows. Instead, she arrives softly, like a breeze slipping through an open door, felt before it is understood. It is not shyness, it is not modesty. It is mastery. Her quietness is not silence, it is intention. Some women shout because they are terrified of being unseen. They raise their voices, their energy, their presence, hoping someone will finally tell them they matter. But the younger-looking woman, she never begs for significance. She knows that real presence does not come from sound, it comes from alignment. When a woman knows herself deeply, her truth, her worth, her identity, she no longer needs volume. Her energy speaks for her. You can tell when a woman has entered the room without seeing her face. Her spirit arrives a few steps ahead of her. She has learned to move with ease, not urgency. And that ease gives her the appearance of youth, because nothing ages us faster than the desperate effort to be validated. She does not perform to prove she exists. She simply exists. Her softness is intentional. Her stillness is strength disguised as calm. She listens more than she speaks, not because she is quiet, but because she is present. She pays attention to the world, to the people she cares about, to the vibrations beneath the surface of interactions. She hears what others miss, she sees what others overlook, and in that depth, she becomes someone unforgettable. Someone who stays in the memory long after she has left. When she speaks with weight, not loudness, weight. Her words carry the maturity of a soul that has listened far more than it has reacted. Her movements carry the confidence of someone who no longer tries to impress. Her energy carries the softness of a woman who has healed the parts of herself that once needed the world's applause. And that softness, oh, that softness keeps her young. Softness reduces tension. Tension ages the face. Softness restores the glow. She understands this instinctively. She won her battles not by roaring, but by learning when to be still, when to pause, when to breathe, when to surrender control so that life could show her something deeper than her fears. She has tasted rage, yes. She has tasted heartbreak. She has tasted the bitterness of disappointment. But she did not let those emotions become permanent parts of her personality. She allowed them to pass. And because of that, her energy remains fluid, not rigid. Rigid energy ages. Fluid energy rejuvenates. This is why she always seems to be glowing, even on days she is tired. She has mastered the balance between power and grace. When she speaks, it sounds like truth. When she moves, it feels like prayer. When she looks at you, she sees you, not your mask, not your performance, but your essence. And in that gentle seeing, she becomes timeless. But beneath her softness lies something even more powerful, something most people misunderstand. Her energy is light, even when her life is heavy. 3. Her energy, slight, even when her life is heavy. This may be the most misunderstood quality of all. People see a woman who laughs softly, who breathes peacefully, who glows gently, and they assume her life must be easy, her path smooth, her story simple. But if only they knew, the women who look the lightest are often the ones who have carried the heaviest burdens. They have known grief so deep it hollowed them. They have cried in silence so intense it felt like a breaking. They have walked through seasons where hope seemed distant, where love felt cruel, where faith was stretched thin. But instead of sinking, they learned to float. They learned that heaviness is part of life, but suffering is a choice. They learned that while pain is inevitable, surrender is optional. and so they made a different choice, one that changed the shape of their spirit and the story of their life. They chose not to let heaviness define them. She does not deny her struggles. She does not hide her wounds. She simply refuses to carry them forever. A heavy spirit ages the body. A light spirit releases it. When life weighed her down, she didn't hold her breath until she suffocated. She exhaled deeply, slow, intentionally. She released what she could not control. She surrendered what was never hers to carry. She accepted that some seasons are meant to end, no matter how tightly she wanted to hold them. And every time she released something, a memory, a person, a disappointment, she grew lighter. This lightness became her beauty. People feel at peace around her, not because she has no problems, but because her problems do not own her. She moves with a holy steadiness, a softness touched by fire. She has survived enough pain to break a heart, yet she continues to love. She has faced enough fear to paralyze anyone, yet she continues to rise. Her youthfulness does not come from denial, it comes from transcendence. She has learned to sit with her pain without letting it shape her identity. She has learned to hold sadness without drowning in it. She has learned to walk with uncertainty without losing her center. This is what makes her appear younger, not a lack of suffering, but a mastery of it. She does not let heaviness linger. She transforms it. She breathes through it. She grows from it. And because of that, her being glows quietly, unmistakably, eternally. She understands something profound. Life will always be heavy, but you do not have to be. And it is in that understanding that her true beauty is born. A beauty untouched by time, untouched by fear, untouched by the weight of her story. A beauty that flows into everything she touches and becomes the foundation of the next truth waiting to unfold. Because when a woman learns to lighten her energy despite the heaviness of her circumstances, she discovers a power even deeper than youth itself. The power to unlearn everything that tried to dim her. 4. She does not cling to the past. She unlearns it. There comes a moment in a woman's life when she realizes that holding on is far more exhausting than letting go. Not because she is weak, not because she is giving up, but because she finally understands something beautifully, painfully true. The past does not move, only she does. For years, she might have tried to drag old memories into her new life, hoping they would eventually make sense or heal, or finally stop feeling like unfinished chapters. She might have replayed moments over and over again, thinking she could rewrite them if she just remembered them deeply enough. But the past is a closed book, and the more she kept reading it, the more she remained a character in a story that was already finished. Youth fades fastest in those who cling to what is gone. There is a heaviness that comes from trying to carry what no longer belongs to you. A woman who ages herself with sorrow, guilt, or regret unknowingly binds her spirit to yesterday, and yesterday has no breath left to offer her. But the woman who looks younger than her years, she does something rare. She unlearns. She unlearns the beliefs that made her feel unworthy. She unlearns the habits that made her shrink. She unlearns the roles she performed to earn approval. She unlearns the lies someone else whispered into her identity. Unlearning is not forgetting. Unlearning is liberation. It is choosing not to live inside stories written by fear or shaped by people who never understood her fullness. It is loosening the grip on pain, not because it didn't matter, but because she matters more. It is reclaiming her narrative, word by word, memory by memory, breath by breath. Some say time heals, but time only heals what you allow yourself to release. Everything else becomes emotional scar tissue. She understands this. That is why she no longer clings. She knows that healing is not the act of forcing wounds to close, it is the gentle surrender of no longer picking them open. She knows that emotional freedom is not a gift, it is a discipline. Unlearning requires courage because it means facing truths she once avoided, accepting realities she once resisted, and stepping into new versions of herself that the old her could have never imagined. When she unlearns the past, she returns to her body with softness. She returns to her mind with clarity. She returns to her spirit with space. Space to breathe. Space to begin again. Space to invite peace into rooms where chaos once lived. And that spaciousness shows in her face. It shows in her posture. It shows in the gentle relaxation of her shoulders. It shows in the way she laughs without holding back. It shows in the way she feels light, like she's finally living from the inside out instead of from the past forward. And this kind of woman becomes ageless, not because her life is perfect, but because her past no longer imprisons her. She knows that youth is not the absence of years. Youth is the absence of emotional burdens, so she releases them, one by one, layer by layer, memory by memory. And with every release, she becomes more alive. She becomes more present, more compassionate, more open, more herself. The past may have shaped her, but it will not define her. The past may have wounded her, but it will not own her. The past may have walked with her, but it will not walk ahead of her. And as she steps out of yesterday, she steps into something far more radiant, far more luminous, the kind of inner glow that rises from genuine, quiet joy. 5. Her smile. I's not for the world, ITIS for herself. There is something profoundly beautiful about a woman who smiles without performing. Not the smile she puts on for pictures. Not the polite smile she wears in conversations. Not the practice smile she used to hide the chaos inside, but the true smile, the soft one, the one that rises from a place of inner alignment. It is the smile that appears when she sits alone by a window and remembers how far she's come. The smile that slips across her lips when she realizes she survived what once felt impossible. The smile that emerges when she reconnects with her desires, her dreams, her sacred joy. This smile belongs to her, not to the world, not to a man, not to approval, not to validation. It is a smile of recognition, a recognition of her own light. The world has taught many women to smile as a mask, to hide their exhaustion, to soften the discomfort of others, to keep the peace even when their spirit was breaking. Those smiles fade quickly, because they are borrowed, not born. But the smile of a younger-looking woman, the woman who has learned peace and wisdom and healing, that smile is rooted, grounded, honest. It comes from a well that the world cannot drain. It comes from a self-love that is quiet but unshakable. It comes from a joy that was not bought but cultivated. Her smile is a reflection of the inner world she has built, a world she fought for, a world she tended to, a world she watered with tears, patience, and resilience. And here is the sacred truth. When a woman smiles for herself, the entire universe softens around her. Because that kind of smile is not decoration. It is revelation. It reveals her healing. It reveals her strength. It reveals her softness. It reveals the sacred chapter she wrote in silence. People often think she smiles because life has been kind. But she smiles because she has learned to be kind to herself. She has learned to speak gently to her heart. She has learned to soothe her own spirit. She has learned to comfort the younger version of herself who once felt overlooked. Her smile is medicine. Her smile is memory. Her smile is freedom. And freedom shows on the face. It lifts the eyes. It opens the breath. It brightens the skin. It softens the jaw. It creates a glow that no product can replicate. Because when peace lives inside a woman, beauty rises effortlessly from her being. But her smile, this quiet, real, self-born smile has another secret woven inside it. It reveals something even deeper, something that people feel but cannot explain. It reveals the truth that this woman has learned something many never do. She knows how to protect her inner weather. 6. She knows how to protect her inner weather. If there is one thing that truly preserves a woman's radiance, it is this. She guards the climate of her inner world, the way others guard their physical homes. She knows that storms will always come, but she does not allow them to settle inside her. She does not let other people's chaos become her emotional atmosphere. She does not allow negativity to find a permanent address in her mind. She has learned something simple, yet profound. You cannot control the world, but you can control the world within you. She understands that her energy, her peace, her joy, her clarity is sacred. And sacred things require boundaries. Sacred things require intention. Sacred things require protection. So she chooses her conversations with care, not out of fear, but out of respect for her spirit. She chooses who can access her heart, not because she is guarded, but because she is wise. She chooses what she consumes, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because she knows everything she allows in becomes part of her internal ecosystem. She protects her inner weather because she knows how easily it can be disturbed. She knows how quickly a harsh word can become a storm. She knows how fast disappointment can turn into thunder. She knows how unresolved conflict can become emotional humidity that suffocates her joy. She checks her spirit the way others check the sky. She pays attention to changes. She notices when her peace feels threatened. She senses when something is off. And instead of ignoring it, she pauses. She breathes. She recalibrates. She responds, not reacts. Reaction is a storm. Response is a choice. She does not let the world dictate her calm. She creates her own calm over and over again. Even when life is loud, she remains rooted. Even when people are unpredictable, she remains aligned. Even when emotions rise, she remains anchored in herself. Her inner weather stays clear because she tends to it daily. She speaks gently to herself. She lets go of frustration quickly. She forgives herself generously. She reflects before she explodes. She chooses peace even when pride tempts her toward chaos. And this inner clarity shines outward. People often tell her she looks refreshed, relaxed, or radiant without understanding why. They think she sleeps more. They think she has a perfect life. They think she has better luck. But her secret is far simpler. She does not allow negativity to live in her. Her mind is not a battleground. Her heart is not a landfill. Her spirit is not a storage unit for other people's emotional trash. She has learned to protect her peace with grace, not aggression. With intuition, not fear. With boundaries, not walls. And so her body responds. Her skin softens. Her eyes brighten. Her breath deepens. Her energy lifts. Because the body always reveals the weather of the soul. A woman who tends to her inner climate creates a sanctuary of youthfulness around herself. A sanctuary so strong, so gentle, so rooted, that it becomes impossible to age her spirit. But this protection, this peace, this inner maintenance, it gives birth to something even more powerful. A truth she will discover in the next unfolding, that the body ages with time, yes, but the spirit ages only when you stop listening to it. 7. She listens to her body as if it were a temple. There comes a moment in a woman's life when she realizes that her body is not merely a vessel she lives inside. It is a sacred place she tends to. It is the soft echo of wisdom she sometimes ignores, the quiet guardian she often overworks, the ancient friend she forgets to sit with. And only when she begins to listen, truly listen, does she understand how deeply her body has been speaking to her all along. She begins to hear the fatigue she once pushed through. She begins to recognize the tension she once dismissed. She begins to honor the hunger for rest, for peace, for breath, instead of shaming herself for having human limits. Her body, once treated like a battlefield of expectations, becomes a sanctuary again, a place where the world cannot dictate her pace, her worth, or her direction. And she notices something miraculous. When she softens into herself, her body softens back. When she stops demanding perfection, her muscles release. When she allows herself to feel, truly feel, her heart no longer needs to scream through exhaustion or anxiety just to be heard. Listening to her body becomes an act of devotion, a ritual, a return. She begins to move differently through the world. She rests without guilt because she finally understands that rest is not a reward, it is a requirement. She nourishes herself without apology because she finally realizes that her body is not a problem to fix. It is a home to care for. And she understands something most people never learn, that the body communicates in whispers long before it ever cries out. Whispers of discomfort, of unease, of depletion. Whispers that tell the truth about the environments she's in, the people she's surrounded by, the emotions she's storing, the habits she's tolerating. When she listens, she can no longer pretend she doesn't know. She can no longer betray herself by staying where her body tightens. She can no longer shrink herself to fit into spaces where her breath becomes shallow. Her intuition sharpens as her body relaxes. Her clarity rises as her nervous system calms. She becomes attuned, not just to the pace of life around her, but to the rhythm of life within her. And slowly, she returns to the understanding that her body is not something she must control. It is something she is invited to be in relationship with. A dynamic, evolving, truthful companion. The temple that tells her when something is right, when something is wrong, when something is aligned, and when something is asking to be released. And as she honors this temple, she discovers a love that is entirely different from the love she used to chase. A love that comes from the inside, rising quietly like morning light. She becomes a woman who no longer collapses under pressure because she finally listens before she breaks. She no longer forces herself to endure because she understands that endurance is not strength, alignment is. She no longer answers to expectations because she has learned to answer to the truth of her own body. And just when she thinks she has learned all the wisdom her body has to offer, she discovers the next revelation rising gently from within. Because once she learns to honor the language of her body, she begins to understand the deeper language of her heart. 8. Her heart eyes never closed, just selective. A woman who has learned to listen deeply to herself no longer confuses protection with isolation. She no longer shuts down her heart out of fear. She refines her boundaries out of wisdom. Her heart does not harden. It becomes discerning. It becomes a gate that opens only for energy that feels safe, present, and genuine. She understands something that took her years to learn, that keeping her heart open does not mean giving it away. For the longest time, she believed that love required her to be endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, endlessly tolerant. She thought softness meant surrendering her power. She thought openness meant letting everyone in. She thought love meant enduring even what harmed her. But now she knows better. Her heart remains open but not exposed, tender but not unguarded, warm but not accessible to everyone. She has learned that not all who knock deserve to enter. Not all who smile deserve trust. Not all who want access deserve presence. Yet she does not close herself off. No, that would go against her nature. She is built from compassion, made of intuition, shaped by deep currents of feeling. She does not shut the gates of her heart. She simply chooses who may walk inside them. And she chooses slowly. She observes how someone speaks when they are frustrated. She watches how they treat those who can give them nothing. She notices how they show up when no one is watching. She pays attention to the energy behind the words, the intention behind the affection, the truth beneath the charm. If her heart is a doorway, then her discernment is the lock, and she, the key holder, is unhurried, wise, and grounded. She has learned that love is not about who wants her. It is about who respects her, who honors her energy, who brings peace instead of noise, clarity instead of confusion, steadiness instead of chaos. Her heart is selective because she values the one life she has. Her heart is selective because she understands the cost of giving access to the wrong person. Her heart is selective because she carries the memory of times she loved too quickly, trusted too deeply, stayed too long, but still, she remains open. Because she knows the world does not change through fear, it changes through wisdom. And she knows that when the right presence enters her life, her heart will recognize it before her mind does. It will soften, warm, expand, not out of naivety, but out of alignment. Selectivity is not bitterness. It is maturity. It is self-respect woven into instinct. It is the quiet reminder, I am worth choosing carefully. And as she becomes more selective with her heart, she becomes more connected to her inner world, the place where silence speaks the loudest truths. Because when the noise fades and the world quiets, she discovers that the deepest guidance comes from the space where she meets herself. 9. She embraces silence like a friend. There is a particular kind of strength in the woman who no longer fears silence, the woman who no longer runs from stillness, who no longer fills every empty space with noise, who no longer needs distraction to feel alive. Instead, she turns towards silence with the tenderness of greeting an old friend. She understands that silence is not the absence of life, it is the presence of truth. Silence is not loneliness, it is clarity. Silence is not emptiness, it is depth. She sits with herself in the quiet spaces where others feel restless. She breathes into moments of stillness that make others uncomfortable. And in those pauses, she hears the things people miss when they rush, when they fear, when they distract themselves from their own souls. In silence, she hears the quiet echo of her intuition rising like a steady flame. In silence, she feels the tension she carries melting gently from her body. In silence, she meets the woman she is becoming, the one shaped not by noise, but by presence. She no longer fears being alone with her thoughts, because she has learned that her thoughts are not enemies. They are messengers. They reveal where she needs healing, where she needs boundaries, where she needs rest, where she needs change. Silence becomes a mirror, a sanctuary, a teacher. It teaches her that she is not defined by the voices of the world, but by the truth she hears when everything else fades. It teaches her that peace is not found externally, it is created internally. It teaches her that wisdom is not loud, it is quiet. It teaches her that her spirit has its own language, one she can only hear when the world falls away. In silence, she discovers that her deepest strength has never been her ability to endure noise, but her ability to find peace where others find fear. And in that peace, she reconnects with something she forgot, the sacred rhythm of her own existence. The soft, steady pulse that says, you are here, you are whole, you are alive. Silence does not shrink her, it expands her. It does not empty her, it fills her. It does not isolate her, it reconnects her. And in embracing silence, she becomes unshakable in a way noise could never make her. She becomes rooted, anchored, centered. Her presence deepens, her energy shifts. People feel something different around her. A calmness, a clarity, a groundedness that cannot be faked. Because silence has become her foundation, her refuge, her guide. And It is in this quiet inner space where she begins to awaken the next stage of her becoming, the part of her journey that whispers. If silence can transform her from the inside, imagine what she will become when she learns to carry that stillness into the world. 10. She does not compete, she creates. There is a rare kind of power in a woman who no longer wastes her energy trying to outrun anyone. A woman who realizes that competition is a game designed to keep her distracted from her own brilliance. She does not look left or right. She does not measure her journey against someone else's timeline. She does not shrink herself to fit into the lanes others run in. She creates her own, because she has learned that comparison steals more than joy. It steals purpose. It steals clarity. It steals the ability to hear her own calling beneath the noise of other people's accomplishments. She knows now that her gifts are unique threads woven into the fabric of her existence. And no amount of competition can accelerate or replace what she is meant to offer the world. She understands that the world is not changed by those who fight for space, but by those who build new space entirely. So she creates from her depth, from her wounds, from her healing, from her courage. She creates from the silence she has embraced. She creates from the wisdom her body whispers. She creates from the lessons she never wanted but learned so fully. And the beauty of her creation is that it carries her signature, her energy, her truth, her voice. No one can imitate it because no one has lived her journey. No one has walked her storms, held her heartbreaks, breathed through her rebirths. So she no longer competes because the race ended the moment she realized she was running on a path built for someone else. Creation, for her, is not performance. It is expression. It is revelation. It is liberation. She wakes each morning not asking, how do I prove myself? But instead asking, what wants to be born through me today? And in that question, she steps into a life that feels like her own. A life that expands, not constricts. A life that flows, not fights. A life that emerges, not compares. She understands that competing exhausts the spirit, but creating nourishes it. Competing fills the world with noise, but creating fills the world with meaning. Competing is about scarcity, but creating is about abundance, the abundance of ideas, expression, possibility. And as she creates, she notices something profound. The more she creates, the less she needs validation. The more she creates, the less she fears judgment. The more she creates, the more she becomes herself. Her power is quiet but undeniable, not the loud confidence of someone trying to be seen, but the calm confidence of someone who already knows her place in the world is secure, because she is building it with her own hands. Creation becomes her identity. Creation becomes her peace. Creation becomes her power. And as she settles deeper into this artistic, intuitive way of living, she realizes that the creation she values most is not the work she produces, but the woman she is becoming through it. And eventually, she learns something even deeper, because once she discovers the power of creation, she realizes she must also protect that power from the energies that once silenced her. 11. She refuses to become what hurt her. A woman who creates from her essence knows that she cannot afford to become a reflection of the pain she has endured. She cannot carry the bitterness of those who tried to break her. She cannot mirror the cruelty of those who wounded her. She cannot become hardened in the shape of the disappointments she survived. So she refuses. She refuses to let her spirit twist into the likeness of those who mishandled her. She refuses to let betrayal turn her cold. She refuses to let disappointment make her cynical. She refuses to let heartbreak teach her to close herself. She refuses to let pain define her identity. Why? Because she has learned a profound truth. Pain shapes you only when you don't shape it back. She has suffered. Yes. She has been betrayed. Yes. She has been underestimated, misjudged, dismissed. She has been treated as if her softness was weakness, as if her loyalty was naivety, as if her kindness was foolishness. But she has also risen, not by becoming like those who harmed her, but by becoming the opposite. She responds to dishonesty with integrity. She responds to rejection with self-respect. She responds to chaos with calm. She responds to cruelty with boundaries, not rage. Because she knows that healing is not about forgetting what hurt you. It is about refusing to embody it. She looks at her past and learns, but she will not carry the residue of it into her future. Her heart has been broken, but it is not broken-hearted. Her trust has been shaken, but it is not untrusting. Her spirit has been tested, but it is not defeated. She understands that becoming what hurt her would be the final victory for those who never saw her worth in the first place. And she refuses to give them that victory. She refuses to give pain that kind of power. So she chooses to transform, not repeat. She chooses to grow, not mirror. She chooses to evolve, not avenge. Her strength is not in her ability to fight back, but in her ability to rise above. Her power is not in retaliation, but in elevation. Her wisdom is not in becoming hardened, but in becoming wise. She does not deny her wounds. She alchemizes them. She turns betrayal into boundaries, heartbreak into discernment, disappointment into direction. Pain becomes the teacher that she thanks, not the identity she adopts. And in choosing not to become what hurt her, she steps into a new chapter of her becoming, one that requires even more courage, because once she refuses to become what harmed her, she must take the final, bold step, walking away from anything that continues to dim her spirit. 12. She walks away from what kills her light. There is a sacred turning point in a woman's life when she finally realizes that staying is more dangerous than leaving, that holding on is more draining than letting go, that preserving the familiar is not worth losing the fire of her own spirit. So she walks away, not dramatically, not chaotically, but quietly, intentionally, gracefully. She walks away not because she is weak, but because she is wise. She walks away not because she no longer cares, but because she cares about herself enough to stop sacrificing her light. She walks away from those who take but never give. She walks away from those who drain but never pour back. She walks away from conversations that bring no clarity. She walks away from connections that lack reciprocity. She walks away from expectations that suffocate her spirit. She walks away from environments that shrink her potential. She walks away from roles she has outgrown. She walks away because she finally understands that the cost of staying is too high. It costs her peace, her glow, her direction, her essence, and she will not lose herself again. Walking away becomes an act of spiritual self-preservation, a return to alignment, a reclaiming of her power. She has learned that her light is sacred, and anything that dimmed it, disrespected it, or drained it no longer has a place in her life. She is no longer available for relationships that feel like battles. She is no longer accessible to people who love her only when she is convenient. She is no longer attached to situations that keep her hoping instead of growing. She walks away because she now understands her worth. She walks away because she has finally become the woman who protects her energy. She walks away because she has outgrown the version of herself who stayed too long, tried too hard, tolerated too much, and when she walks away, something magical happens. Her light returns, her clarity returns, her strength returns, her future returns. She feels her spirit rising again, unburdened. She feels her heart expanding again, unafraid. She feels herself becoming again, not drained but restored. Walking away is not abandonment, it is awakening. It is the moment her spirit whispers, "You were never meant to live dim, you were meant to shine." And as she steps into this new space, illuminated from within, she realizes something profound. Because once she learns to walk away from what kills her light, she will soon discover what and who helps her light burn even brighter. 13. She knows her worth without waiting for proof. There is a quiet revolution that happens inside a woman the day she stops needing the world to confirm what she already feels in her bones. A moment where she realizes that worth is not negotiated, earned, or granted. It is claimed, it is remembered, it is embodied. She knows her worth now, not because someone told her, not because someone chose her, not because life rewarded her, but because she finally stopped abandoning herself. She no longer waits for validation to feel valuable. She no longer waits for applause to feel accomplished. She no longer waits for love to feel lovable. She no longer waits for recognition to feel seen. Worth for her is no longer something external, a fragile thing that can be taken away by a comment, a rejection, a silence. Worth is now an inner flame, a steady pulse, a truth she returns to even on the day she doubts herself. She knows that the world often reflects confusion, not truth, that people see her through the fog of their own wounds, fears, and limitations, that being misunderstood is not the same as being unworthy. So she no longer hands her identity to the opinions of others. She becomes the one who tells herself, "You matter. You are enough. You are more than enough." She becomes the one who decides what she deserves. She becomes the one who defines the standard of how she should be treated. And the moment she knows her worth without waiting for proof, everything in her life begins to shift. She no longer entertains love that comes with conditions. She no longer chases validation that keeps moving the goalpost. She no longer explains herself to people who are committed to misunderstanding her. She no longer proves herself to those who benefit from her doubt. Her standards rise, her circle narrows, her peace deepens, her energy sharpens. The world starts responding to her differently because she is responding to herself differently. Her worth becomes her boundary. Her worth becomes her protection. Her worth becomes her compass. She no longer fears being alone because she finally enjoys her own company. She no longer fears rejection because she no longer rejects herself. She no longer fears falling short because she no longer ties her value to performance. Her worth is not conditional, it is essential. And the more she anchors into it, the more she realizes something profound, that knowing her worth is not just about how she lets other people treat her. It is about how she treats herself in the quiet moments no one sees. And that takes her deeper, because once a woman knows her worth, she must confront the truths she keeps inside, the ones she can no longer hide from herself. 14. She hides nothing from herself. A woman who has learned her worth knows she must live in truth, not just truth with the world, but truth within herself. And that is the hardest truth of all. She stops hiding from the parts of her heart she used to avoid. She stops distracting herself from the wounds she never wanted to face. She stops silencing the intuition that whispered warnings she ignored. She turns inward with courage. She sits with what hurts. She confronts what's unfinished. She admits what she denied for years. She hides nothing now. Not her desires, not her fears, not her patterns, not her vulnerabilities. She tells herself the truth, even when it trembles. Even when it threatens to change everything. Even when it asks her to let go of what she once begged for. She is honest about who she loves and why. She is honest about what drains her and what feeds her. She is honest about the habits she must release and the habits she must build. She is honest about the difficult conversations she's been postponing. She is honest about the dreams she's placed on pause. She is honest about her loneliness. Even the loneliness she hides behind her strength. She no longer uses busyness as a shield. She no longer uses perfection as a disguise. She no longer uses relationships as an escape. She no longer uses silence to avoid her own voice. She faces herself because she knows that hiding from her truth only delays her transformation, that denial steals time, that avoidance steals growth, that pretending steals peace. And when she stops hiding from herself, something extraordinary happens. She becomes whole, she becomes authentic, she becomes aligned. She no longer needs others to validate her path because she knows exactly where she stands within herself. And she discovers that her intuition sharpens with every truth she embraces. Her vision clears, her emotional landscape settles, her spirit wakes up, her honesty becomes the ground she stands on, solid, unshakable, real. And yet, as she becomes more honest with herself, she faces one last test, not hiding from the truth that some people, some places, some memories, and some hopes can no longer stay. And so she reaches the threshold of her next becoming, because once she stops hiding from herself, she realizes she can no longer stay where her truth no longer fits, and she must choose love, but never at the cost of herself. She chooses love, but never at the cost of herself. A woman who has reclaimed her worth and embraced her truth understands love differently now. She no longer confuses love with sacrifice. She no longer confuses loyalty with self-abandonment. She no longer confuses giving with losing herself. Love for her is no longer a place where she disappears. Love is a place where she expands. She chooses love, but she chooses it consciously. She chooses it with wisdom. She chooses it with boundaries. She chooses it with alignment. She knows now that love should not require her to dim her light, silence her voice, or shrink her dreams. Love should not drain her spirit or divide her from herself. Love should not feel like walking on eggshells or waiting to be enough. Real love elevates. Real love respects. Real love nourishes. Real love flows. She knows the difference now between a love that grows her and a love that cages her, between a love that heals and a love that harms, between a love that invites her whole self and a love that demands she break herself into pieces. And she chooses carefully. She chooses love that is mutual, steady, and kind. She chooses love that understands her boundaries. She chooses love that respects her no as much as her yes. She chooses love that communicates rather than manipulates. She chooses love that meets her where she stands, not where she is willing to shrink. She would pour into a connection, yes, but not into a void. She will invest in someone, yes, but not in someone who drains her. She will give her heart, yes, but only where it is treasured, not taken for granted. She has learned that the most sacred form of love is self-love, because every relationship begins with the one she holds with herself. And she understands now that losing herself is too high a price to pay for anyone's affection. She will not sacrifice her peace. She will not sacrifice her values. She will not sacrifice her joy. She will not sacrifice her purpose, not anymore. Because she knows what happens when she abandons herself. She begins to disappear inside her own life, and she will never go back to that. So she chooses love, but she chooses herself first. Not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. Not out of ego, but out of alignment. Not out of fear, but out of truth. And that truth becomes her guiding star. A woman who chooses love without losing herself becomes radiant in a way the world cannot ignore. She becomes balanced. She becomes whole. She becomes magnetic. Not because she is seeking love, but because she has become love. She shines differently now. She moves differently now. She loves differently now, because she finally understands that her heart was never meant to shrink. It was meant to rise. And just as she settles into this truth, another realization awakens on the horizon. Because once she chooses love without abandoning herself, she begins to unlock a level of inner power the world rarely sees. 16. She trusts the rhythm of life more than her fears. There comes a moment in every woman's journey where she realizes that life has been speaking to her long before she ever learned to listen. A moment where she understands that fear is loud, but truth is steady. And she begins to feel something ancient inside her, something that whispers, "You were never meant to be guided by panic. You were meant to be guided by rhythm." She learns that life itself has a pulse, a pattern, a flow. And whenever she resists it, she feels drained, conflicted, pulled apart by the tension of forcing what was never meant to be forced. But the moment she surrenders, not to defeat, but to alignment, everything inside her softens. She no longer grips outcomes with trembling fingers. Instead, she allows things to unfold as they must, not because she is passive, but because she understands the difference between forcing and flowing. She begins to see her fears for what they are: small shadows cast by old wounds, memories disguised as warnings, illusions dressed up as logic. Fear shows her the worst versions of the story before it's even begun. But rhythm reminds her that life has never once abandoned her. It has carried her through storms, through loss, through heartbreak, back into herself again and again. She starts trusting the pauses just as much as the progress, because she now understands that silence does not mean stagnation. Waiting does not mean wasting. And slow seasons are not punishments, they are preparations. She trusts that if something is meant for her, it will never require her to betray her peace. She trusts that if life takes something away, it is not theft, it is clearing space. And she trusts that when something ends abruptly, it is simply because time refused to let her linger in a chapter she has already outgrown. Her fear used to ask, "What if everything goes wrong?" But now her rhythm asks, "What if everything is aligning?" And that one question changes everything. She becomes calmer, softer, stronger. She no longer chases, she chooses. She no longer clings, she listens. She no longer demands, she discerns. Because the moment she begins trusting life more than her fears, she becomes untouchable by chaos and unshaken by uncertainty. And right when she steps fully into this trust, something magical happens. She feels a sense of wonder returning to her spirit, as if life has secretly been waiting for her to reopen that door. And just like that, she realizes something powerful, something that leads into the next truth. When fear no longer leads you, the world becomes new again. 17. She lives with wonder, not weariness. There is a kind of exhaustion that does not come from the body, but from the soul. A heaviness created by years of disappointment, pressure, and expectation. Many women carry it unknowingly, believing that maturity must come wrapped in fatigue. But she chooses something different. She chooses wonder. She chooses to look at life not as a battlefield she must survive, but as a landscape she is allowed to explore. She realizes that every sunrise is a conversation, every challenge is a teacher, and every moment, no matter how ordinary, is a doorway into awareness. She gives herself permission to feel amazed again. Not naive, not childish, but open. Wonder to her is not blindness to reality. It is a deeper soul-level vision that sees the sacred in everything. She notices the way her breath steadies when she steps outside. She notices the way people soften when they feel seen. She notices the way life offers little hints, little nudges, little synchronicities that gently guide her toward the right direction. Weariness used to drain her. Wonder revives her. Weariness told her, life is heavy. Wonder whispers, life is happening for you. Weariness taught her to brace for the worst. Wonder teaches her to anticipate the unfolding. She is not pretending life is easy. She is choosing to meet life with curiosity instead of cynicism. She understands that nothing grows in the soil of bitterness, and she refuses to let her spirit harden just because the world sometimes forgets how to be gentle. She lets herself marvel at the small things, the quiet, the patterns, the softness, the unexpected moments of grace that appear without explanation. Wonder becomes her strength because wonder keeps her awake, it keeps her alive, it keeps her connected to everything meaningful, everything soulful, everything true. And the more she chooses this wonder, the younger her spirit becomes, not in a superficial sense, but in a profound spiritual one. Her eyes reflect a clarity that can only come from someone who has walked through darkness but still chooses light. Because the world ages you when you stop looking at it with new eyes. But she refuses to let life dull her vision. And as she breathes in this wonder, a realization begins to bloom inside her, quiet yet powerful. Age does not define the state of your spirit. Your spirit defines the way you age. And this leads her gracefully into the next truth. 18. She knows that youth is as a spiritual state, not a birth date. She understands that true youth has nothing to do with the number of years she has lived, and everything to do with the way she holds her soul. She carries a certain softness, not from inexperience but from wisdom. A softness that says, I know life can be harsh, but I choose to remain open. Youth to her is not the absence of wrinkles or mistakes. It is the presence of hope. It is the way she can still laugh from her belly. It is the way she can still dream with intention. It is the way she can still believe in beginnings even after surviving endings. She knows that the body may grow older, but the soul remains timeless. And when she nurtures her spirit through reflection, joy, connection, silence, she finds herself aging in reverse. Not physically, but energetically. Her mind becomes clearer. Her heart becomes lighter. Her presence becomes brighter. Because youth is not something you lose. It is something you stop practicing. And she refuses to stop. She keeps learning, not because she is unfulfilled, but because she refuses to let her curiosity die. She keeps evolving, not because she is dissatisfied, but because she knows transformation is a birthright. She keeps loving, not because she is untouched by pain, but because she is no longer ruled by it. She knows that life does not end when the candles multiply on the cake. Life ends when the spirit stops glowing, and her glow, subtle, sacred, steady, never dims. Not because circumstances are perfect, but because her inner world is alive, awake, expansive. She carries herself like someone who has lived beautifully and plans to keep living beautifully, no matter how many chapters come and go. For her, youth is a soul decision, a daily intention, a commitment to stay connected to wonder, trust, joy, and play. And as she steps into this truth fully, she understands something profound, that the journey of a woman is never about becoming younger or older, but about becoming more herself. And so, as these truths settle into her spirit, she realizes the quiet conclusion of her entire journey. A woman's power is not in her age, her appearance, or her perfection. It is in the way she returns to herself again and again, with softness, with truth, and with unwavering self-respect. In the quiet, after all these truths, something becomes clear. Clear in a way that does not shout, but settles deep, like a gentle stone sinking into still water. The journey of a woman is not a straight line, not a ladder, not a competition. It is a spiral, a returning, a rising, then softening, then rising again. It is the continual remembering of who she truly is beneath the noise, the expectations, the wounds, and the roles she once believed she had to play. Each keynote, each realization, each whisper of wisdom has been guiding her toward one sacred essence, that she has always been whole. Her strength was never in the battles she fought, nor in the people she pleased, nor in the storm she survived. Her strength was in the way she kept coming back to herself, sometimes trembling, sometimes exhausted, sometimes unsure, but always returning, always choosing to notice what is real and release what is heavy. She learned that her power is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is not something she has to prove. Her power is in her awareness, her presence, her clarity, her ability to choose what aligns and walk away from what does not, her bravery to listen to her soul even when the world demands something else. Her willingness to heal instead of harden, to grow instead of shrink, to open instead of close. And through this journey, she discovers something deeper. She was never becoming someone new. She was returning to the woman she was always meant to be. A woman who trusts the rhythm of life more than her fears. A woman who lives with wonder instead of weariness. A woman whose youth comes from her spirit, not her age. A woman who protects her light, honors her truth, and refuses to shrink for anyone. A woman who knows her worth without waiting for permission to claim it. She becomes a woman who no longer walks through life trying to be understood, but a woman who understands herself fully, fearlessly, and beautifully. And that is where her freedom lives. Because the greatest transformation a woman can experience is not changing into someone else, but coming home to herself completely, unapologetically, and with a heart that knows its own value. Her journey is not over, it is simply unfolding. And she moves forward with the quiet confidence of someone who knows she does not need to be more. She only needs to be true. And in that truth, she is already enough.